Here we are, episode 100. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe that it's been 100 episodes. Annie, welcome to the podcast, although the tables turn. And I am, as part of working through my trust issues, giving up the interview microphone to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be here, Sally, and thank you so much for thinking of me to bring me on to your 100th episode. What a milestone. That is so huge. So first, a big cheers of water to you, my friend. Congratulations. It's very exciting. Congratulations.
I know it is 7 o'clock in the morning, so I just put the sunglasses on because that's a bit of a party thing to do.
Perfect. Beautiful. No, genuinely, I'm so proud of you, and it means a lot for you to bring me on here. And I'm really excited to do this episode because I think it's a great opportunity to talk a lot about you and your journey and how you got to where you are today. And I've got a lot of questions prepared, as you've seen some of them. So I'm really excited to get started. But the first thing I wanted to kick off with, as it is your 100th episode, what inspired starting the podcast? Because your podcast has become quite big now, and I love every single episode you release. Why did you feel it was necessary for you to really, dive into creating a podcast for yourself?
Oh, I think it just made sense. As I was starting the business, I knew a lot of people who had podcasts. And of course, being a speaking coach, everyone was like, oh, you should do a podcast. And people were coming to me saying, I want to do a podcast and I want to work on my voice. And so it just totally made sense for me to do. And I've got a background in radio and as well. So
yeah, no, definitely. And do you have a favorite episode from the podcast?
Oh, it's like picking favorite children, isn't it? But I'd have to say one of my favorite episodes is with Andrew Frodsham. I don't know what number it is, but it's How I Stopped Stuttering. And what I love about it so much is a lot of my guests, like us, have businesses and they've got, incredible information to share. And I've had so many great chats. Whereas Andrew is like literally just a punter. And I shouldn't say just a punter in that way, but
yeah.
He contacted me on TikTok just to say, hey, I went through this and I've put together some information about what helped me. And he sent me this amazing PDF document of all of these strategies that he used. And I thought, wow, that's just so incredible. And our chat was just so full of heart and I absolutely love it. I will put in the show notes. Hang on a sec. I'll have to just quickly look up which one it is. Oh, you can look through the things. Go back through and you'll find Andrew Frodsham. But of course, I love all my episodes.
I think that's really beautiful because when you said, it's so full of heart, I think that's one of the things that makes you so distinct as not only a coach, but as someone who creates content is you are so heart-driven and so soul-driven, and it's really beautiful. And I wanted to actually ask you about this today because I've known you for a little while now, I think just over a year or something, which is crazy to me. It's crazy. Time flies. But one of the really beautiful things has been watching you really find your own path and find your own journey. And one of the things that I think is so beautiful is how a lot of your content that you're creating and a lot of the classes that you're, leading are now very soul driven, which I think is just really beautiful. Do you want to explain to us kind of how that happened for you and why it's really important for you to create, a life for yourself that is soul driven and has that purpose?
Absolutely. I feel like I've always been a bit spiritual, if that's even a thing. I've done the journal writing and a bit of manifesting and please bring me a man that I don't hate, like these kind of things, which that was answered. So, it works. Manifesting, get on it. But then I, throughout 2020 and throughout this year as well, just went in deeper into meditation, human design, astrology, numerology. I did my spiritual life coaching course this year. Wow. And so much of it really resonated with me. And I really believe that our voice does start within. And I found a lot of my clients, and even in the past, I taught this way where people sort of were looking for external answers all the time rather than really appreciating the magic they have inside. And that's where our voice physically and metaphorically starts.
Yeah.
And so as I was going through all of the different spiritual concepts, I thought, wow, there's so much here that applies so well to voice and public speaking. And that's why I created Speak From Your Soul, which is my spirituality course. And I find for me, it's been so helpful to get perspective, to not fall into the hustle, because you're kind of like me. We have a tendency, one of our best attributes is that we get shit done. But at the same time, we can fall into that go and burn out.
I completely agree. I think I was talking to a friend about this the other day. There's a really fine line, I think, between like the hustle culture, between like productivity and then toxic productivity. And one of the things I'm now trying to learn and teach myself is that like rest and downtime is productive. Right. So that is just as helpful and useful to your growth and to your healing as is getting work done and ticking off a to-do list. One of the things, we were just talking about this before we started filming together, that I think has been huge this year, particularly being in lockdown, has been feeling really overwhelmed, feeling really burnt out, coping with those kinds of emotions. And I think in a field of work where you're expected to show up on camera consistently for people, that adds an extra level. What's your experience been like with that? Are these like experiences or emotions that you yourself have felt this year, and how do you cope with that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing has been, or the first thing's been a change in perspective. I used to find myself saying, do I have time to meditate? Do I have time to go to the gym? Do I have time to watch this movie? And it's just crazy because it should be the other way around. It's like, being a human and doing what you want to do should be first.
Yes.
And yeah. And look, I just need to say as well, I don't have any kids or any pets. And so I have a lot more control over my time. I guess we all have control over our time.
Yeah.
But I really looked at everything and I said, I've got no reason not to be able to create a life that's not so busy. As far as showing up on camera, the biggest thing for me has been forgiveness. So I'd put these expectations on myself as, okay, I have to TikTok every day. I have to show up on stories. I have to. But now, if I don't feel like it, I just don't. And I don't feel bad about it. Like I think that I know you might be able to relate to this. I kind of attach this. Oh gosh, well, if I don't, then I don't know, everything's going to fall apart. No one's going to want to work with me, and all these crazy things that just didn't have a correlation. Yeah. And so that's what I do now. And I think that's why I show up on camera. Genuinely, because I want to. And I also batch, so when I'm in the mood for filming, I'll try to film a few things and then I can just put them out as I feel like.
It's a good way to do it, I think, because I think energy is really important when filming and showing up on camera, as you know. So it's kind of like when you're in the zone and you're in the mood, you want to get as much done as possible so you don't have to kind of, lift yourself back up the next day.
And you can wear no makeup as well. Although I go on camera with no makeup as well. So that kind of...
No, exactly. You really reminded me of, so a friend of mine, Declan Edwards, he's a positive psychology coach at a company called BU. And I remember he said something in a podcast episode, which has always stuck with me. And he said, we're so busy being a human doing that we're forgetting to be a human being. And that for me has been so powerful and so poignant, and something that you actually taught me, Sally, when we started working together. I was learning from you, and I was so lucky to just have, an hour of your time every month to just hear your words of wisdom. And something you taught me, it's always stuck with me, is how I talk about time and how I communicate my thoughts and my feelings about time. And it's something I don't practice as well as I'd like to, but it's something I'm very conscious of. Do you want to talk a little bit about that concept, about talking negatively about time, or why that's something you even learned about in the first place?
Yeah, language matters. It's crazy, isn't it? And I love that. Be a human being, not a human doing. There's another one that's, first be, then do, then have. And they say so many humans have it the wrong way around, and we focus on what we want to have and then what we need to do in order to have. And we totally miss that first step, which is be. So first be, then do, then have. I really love that. With time, yes. Earlier I was saying don't have time. Bad.
Yeah.
If we're always saying negative words around time, I need to kill time, or I don't have time, or I'm too busy, we are manifesting that, we're creating that, because time is really something, and we don't know if we can get too deep at the moment because I'm probably not as knowledgeable about it as I would like to be, but time is us. We are time. We all know that some days go by in a flash and some days are really long. So time is really just a perception. So I try to say I have all the time in the world. And I especially when I do feel a bit pressured, I have all the time in the world.
I think
that's
that's
a long day.
Yeah.
I'm so kind to it. I'm kind to time. I'm also kind to I get the way you talk about money as well.
Yeah.
Money comes to me easily and abundantly. If you're always going, I don't have time, I don't have money, what's going to happen? You're never going to have time and you're never going to have money.
It's so true. It's so true. And I think that, when you said language is so important, it is so important. And I know that in the work that we do, we know that the language that you use about yourself has a huge impact on your self-worth, your confidence and whatnot. But it's amazing to me how the language that we associate with other aspects as well, like you said, like time, like money, can have the same impact. I find that incredible. And I want to thank you, Sally, because that's been one of the big takeaways for me that's always stuck with me from our time knowing each other. But speaking of time, I'm so excited to hear about this because I'm genuinely so intrigued. You recently went on a silent retreat and it wasn't your first time. What was that experience like? And because to me, the thought of not speaking, we're voice coaches, right? So our job is to talk. So the thought of not talking for how long is it? 2 days, 3 days?
Yeah, it's very doable. You would love it, Annie. It's so peaceful. You love getting out into nature and having the peace. It's so nice. It was just from Friday night to Sunday lunchtime. There are more extreme silent retreats like Vipassana, it's called, which is the 10 days where you sit in meditation. And I do feel like I want to work towards that, because when you can read and when you can write, you actually can still distract your mind. And that's what happened a little bit on the last retreat, is I found myself writing business plans and ideas for my next courses and a whole lot of things that I probably shouldn't have spent that time doing.
Right.
But the best thing about it is when you really bring down the noise and everyone's quiet around you, you hear things that you don't normally hear and you notice things you don't normally notice. So I was sitting outside my little room. It was in the Springbrook National Park, this beautiful Gold Coast hinterland, and having my cup of tea outside my room. And there was this little bird, doing its thing. And then a plane came overhead. And I don't think you would have even heard that plane had you been talking, because it was quite distant. But of course, because it was so quiet, you could hear the plane and the little bird did as well. So like both of us just kind of went, the bird's gone, oh, what's going on up there?
Oh my God.
And just in that moment, I felt so connected to nature. It was me and this little bird going, hang on, what's that little noise up there? Which is just a whole experience that you would never have noticed had you been in conversation.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people really struggle with, is being present and how to actually ground themselves in the present moment and be really aware. It's something I definitely struggle with as well. But yeah, the reason I ask you is because I'm really interested in going on a silent retreat. And I think it's a great concept. How did you find going without not using your phone?
Oh, so this time was great. The first time I had to hand it in and get it like out of my reach.
Yeah.
This time I turned it off and had it in my handbag. So I feel like I've really progressed, and I didn't even feel at all. It was kind of like when we finished, I was like, oh, I better turn it back on and message Patrick to say that I'm ready to get picked up.
Yeah.
So I've definitely been able to progress there. I was also helped. I'm doing Sober November. And I remember the first time, how bad is this? I mean, well, I shouldn't say how bad it is, but you notice your growth. The first time I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be the first Friday, Saturday night I haven't had a drink in like my whole life.
Wow. Yeah.
So because I was not drinking anyway, and I have been eating quite vegetarian meals as well. I don't eat a lot of meat really. I'm not vegetarian, but I wouldn't say that I'm a full-on carnivore all the time. And so I think that the vegetarian diet and the no alcohol, those things were just super easy.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you're just by yourself with your thoughts, It's so telling. As we talk about all the time with public speaking, our biggest challenge is the little voice in our head. And I was reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which is all about living in the present moment. Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you would love it. Yeah. And it's quite deep, which is why it was good that I read it on the silent retreat, because I could read a book and really immerse myself in it. You know how sometimes you're reading, but then you go, oh, I better check something here or what's going out there. And you kind of then have to reread the page, whereas this is just really involved reading. And he talks about the anxiety gap. And the anxiety gap is when we're always in the future. It's like, what's going to happen? And we're projecting this horrible situation. And that gap there is the anxiety gap and makes us stress and worry. And I thought, wow, that is exactly what happens with public speaking.
Yeah, it is. And you're so right about like the voice in our head, because often the only thing that psychs us out or makes us feel really, terrified of speaking or whatnot is that voice in our head. And for people that maybe struggle with that, or that, say, for example, really struggle with feeling confident day to day, or don't know how to healthily communicate with that voice, is there any advice you would give to someone who's struggling with that at the moment?
Practice. So I think that confidence is when you find yourself speaking in absolutes, that's a red flag. And this is something that one of my therapists said to me, which really helped. When you find yourself speaking in absolutes, I will always be like this. This will never happen. Yeah. Then it's like, well, that's talking in absolutes is not good. So practice. Mirror work is a good one.
Yeah.
Looking in the mirror saying, I'm so glad I'm you. I'm so glad I'm you. And another thing that resonated with me on the weekend is thinking about the ego in terms of like, it can be like that little monster. And you can also think of just any negativity as like a little monster in your head. And if you feed it, it's going to get bigger. So every time we say to ourselves, I can't do this, it's not going to work out, anything negative, we are just feeding the monster, and the monster gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is why when you get down into those depths of that way of thinking, it's harder to get out. And I feel it's like that's like we feed the monster, it gets so big and takes over. So if you're in that situation, start feeding the good monster. I know, feeding yourself. I start starving the monster and feeding yourself.
Yeah.
And every day, I'm so glad I'm you. Today, I choose an ally, not an enemy. You and me, girl, we're going to slay the day. We've got this. Like, there's enough people in the world that are going to berate us. We don't want to berate ourselves. You often hear people say, oh, look, you can say whatever you want to me because it's not going to be as bad as what I've said to myself. And I think we can all relate to that. And it's, we wouldn't be friends with people who spoke to us the way we speak to ourselves. And so I made a decision. I'm similar to you, used to be a real big perfectionist. And I just made a decision one day going, I'm not going to hate myself. I'm going to love myself. I'm going to think that I'm the best person in the world. And I'm going to make no apologies for that.
I want to dive into that for a sec, that decision, that moment. Was there actually a turning point for you, like a pinpoint, like a moment where you realized, nah, like I want to change? Or did it happen over a prolonged period of time?
I'd say it happened over a prolonged period of time. I guess the big turning point for me is I was in quite an interesting relationship. How many years ago now? 5-6 years ago, probably now, where it was heavy gaslighting. Basically, somebody told me that he was a doctor, but he wasn't a doctor. And no, it's because I'm an international spy. And, just, it sounds funny. Like there is a humorous side to this story. It's whoa. But it had me questioning my sanity to the point where I was going to check myself into a psychiatric ward. Wow. Because there were things, I thought I was losing my mind. Things would go out of my wallet, for example, and I'd say, oh, did you take $20? And he'd go, oh, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And it wasn't about the $20. It was me going, have I dreamed this? It was the time when I went to the movies because we agreed to meet. It was so funny. It was Gone Girl. What a funny movie. So we're there at the premiere. Well, no, I was there. Empty seat next to me. I thought that we'd arranged to meet there. No, never showed up. Couldn't get hold of him. And then the next day it was like, oh, I don't know. We never agreed to do that. So I totally dreamed this. You know what I mean? I dreamed up that we'd I was supposed to be there. So things like that kept happening. Really, really questioned myself, my confidence. And of course, at the same time, I had some people in my life who, I guess you don't know if you haven't been through it, but they were all like, how can you be so stupid? How can't you see what's right in front of you? I just don't understand it. I don't get it. You're just so stupid. I just say it now and I'm like, it's exactly what it was like. And I just spent almost every night in 2015 sitting in the bath, drinking wine, thinking, how am I going to get myself together to go to my job and not have a meltdown? So it was just, I think of that and I think now I'm here going, right, how am I going to launch my course and how am I going to do this and how am I going to do that? And back then, and anybody who's had dark times in their life can relate to that. Your world becomes very small and you think, okay, how can I just get to the next thing? Yeah. And so that's why it wasn't really a moment, but coming out of that, I really relate to that idea of like rising like the phoenix, rising like the phoenix. And I feel fortunate that I had, before all that happened, throughout my childhood, I had lots of things to help me feel confident. And so I was able to return to a lot of those.
It's funny because one of the many things that I absolutely adore about you is your confidence and is how sure you are of yourself. And one of the questions that I get a lot, and I have no doubt that you get it a lot, is when people say, how are you so confident? And how do you, and it's a really difficult question to answer, because confidence, in my opinion, it's not like a trait or something that you kind of have and then you hold on to and then it's there forever. It ebbs and flows, right? And you said before that you practice being confident in something. I'm a big believer that you practice being confident in yourself. That is something that you choose to practice. So in terms of that turning point for you and those incredible things that happened in your life to get to where you are today, were there things that you did in particular that you feel really helped shape your confidence and really help become the person that you are today? Is it what you said before, things like mirror talk, or were there other things that you did as well?
I think it's about really celebrating the wins. Yes. So that's the biggest thing, because I could have focused on every person who didn't want to work with me, every speech that went bad. Like I had a speech that I did towards the start of my business that I thought went pretty well, but people hated it so much that there were grown men who felt the need to send me messages on LinkedIn afterwards just to make sure I knew how bad they thought it was.
No! Oh, how dare they?
And then straight after that, I had to go and give a lecture at a uni where there was like one person in the audience. And so you can always choose. You can always choose how you see things. I could have gone, oh, well, that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. All right, I'm just going to go do something else.
Yeah.
Whereas and now I do that. Like there is so many things to be grateful for and happy for all the time.
Yeah.
And it's really reaching out for lots of opportunities. So yes, I do. Oh, for example, I've applied for TED Talks and been rejected. I've applied to be on podcasts, haven't heard back. Yeah. But I've applied for other things and they have come off. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like always accepting. I love this quote I learned the other day, that there is failure in every success and there's success in every failure.
That's beautiful. I love that.
It's so good.
That is good. And it's funny, the thing that you're talking about, a dear friend of mine, Justine Campbell, she has a concept. Well, it's not her concept, but I was first taught from her, and it's called sliding doors. And I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's exactly what you're describing. And it's that those moments are sliding door moments. So you have kind of two options there. For example, with the rejection from a TED Talk, right? You've got the option of, all right, well, clearly I'm just not good at what I do and I should just stop and never try again. Or, okay, well, that's one thing that rejected me, but there's a lot of other things I could apply for. And who knows, there might be someone from the organization who can introduce me to someone else that could be another opportunity, right? So,
look, I'm just like, it's just not the right event.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I really like the idea. And I was taught this by Glenn Morshower, who I met on Clubhouse. He's an actor. Oh. Yeah, he's so cool. And he taught me about the 4 rooms that people live in. And Did you know, have you heard about this
You
one?
told me about it when he told you, because I remember it was like so like groundbreaking for you.
I just love it. It's like people in the room of impossibility, where I can't, I won't, not going to happen. The room of possibility, oh, it might happen, maybe. Probability is the next one. Oh, it's likely. Yeah, it probably will. And he said, you need to live in the room of inevitability, where it's not even likely to happen. Like it's as inevitable as the fact that you're going to have a coffee in the morning, or have dinner tonight, or get dressed, or brush your teeth. All the things that we accept as things that just happen, they really are beliefs. So, it's inevitable we're going to brush our teeth. Well, that really isn't a reality for every person on this planet. That's still something we've made like that. So I try to, in my meditations, they say it's really important to ground to the present moment and feel the feeling now. So it's not I will do a TED talk. Let's just use that example.
Yeah.
I see myself doing it. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
I love that. I love that. And this
Feel
is
it,
reminding me, what are your feelings about manifestation? Because I feel like this is kind of coming on to that kind of theme. I'm still trying to understand manifestations personally. And it's something that, in my opinion, from my experience, what you've described to me is my understanding of what manifestation is. The idea of it's going to happen. I know it's already out there, and it's just a matter of me attracting it into my life. Is that what manifestation is? Is that something that you use or you practice?
I'm not an expert manifester. There are some really great manifestors out there. Manifestation Babe, she's awesome. So I think for me personally, I was cleaning out my desktop the other day, because I had like so many things on my desktop. It's really embarrassing. I never like to do share screen because of that. And I found like this document called Goals, and it was one I'd written a couple of years ago, and it was always in the present tense. So always write in the present tense, always feel in the present tense.
Yeah.
And it was all these things, and they'd all come true. They'd all happened. And
wow.
Yeah, I mean, like with a few variations here and there. But what I like about manifestation is it helps you think about what you really do want. So like when people say it doesn't work, it's because there's not that emotional connection. Like somebody might say, well, I want to manifest $1 million. It's like, but really, is that what you want? Do you feel that? Like, why do you want that?
Why? Yeah.
Feeling the why. And sitting in the emotions of already having. I find that that's a good way to manifest. So if you really want something, if we always sit in desire of I want, it will always put it in the future.
Yes.
And again, I'm not a manifestation expert.
No, but I mean, you don't have to be an expert to talk about it. I'm genuinely very interested. And I don't know about you, but I spent a lot of my lockdown doing a lot of soul searching and a lot of inner work, which for people that have done inner work, it's not something that you actively choose to do. Like it's hard and it's difficult. It can be super confronting and super challenging. But I feel like lockdown really gave me the breathing room to, even if I didn't want to, look at myself in the mirror, because God knows there's nobody else in this apartment, and to actually confront and face what was looking back at me. And lockdown gave me an opportunity to really work on myself in a way that I feel if we weren't in lockdown, I wouldn't have had that experience or that opportunity to do so. What was your experience like in lockdown? How did you find it? Were you okay? Because Queensland's lockdown was a bit different to New South Wales lockdown. How did you find your experience this year?
Oh, Annie, yeah, I really feel for you. It's been really, really hard for Sydney, for sure. And you are just beyond your years. Honestly, like, it's unbelievable the way you are. You're going to go on to so many incredible things.
Oh, my love.
I was at school at the Gold Coast on the weekend after my silent retreat, and it was schoolies on the Gold Coast. And I was at schoolies 18 years ago. And it was a really full circle moment, because when all through my 20s, I was just not thinking about this stuff.
Yeah.
As far as lockdown goes, we've been so lucky in Queensland. We didn't have a lockdown. Like there was a couple of, I think our longest snap lockdown might have been 7 days.
Oh, wow. No way.
Like I think it's actually been quite interesting. So while Sydney was in a hard lockdown, I was flying and traveling around Tasmania with no masks. So it's been a really interesting experience. I've been talking to
Wow.
people overseas,
Yeah.
and it's really been a tale of two Australias.
Mm.
And I know because Mum was in Sydney and you as well, of course,
Yeah.
so.
That's so funny you say that, because I remember last year during the big world lockdown, but when Australia wasn't like COVID wasn't even a thing, we were just like, celebrating and everything was fine. I had a client in the UK and a client in the US who every time I spoke to them, I was like, just making small talk. Like, how's your day? What'd you get up to? And be like, oh, we've just been inside all day. Like we're in lockdown. We can't do anything. And I remember at the time thinking, oh my gosh, like that's the craziest thing in the world to think that we can go out and everything. And then this year, the roles were completely reversed. I'd jump on a Zoom call and they'd be like, how's your day? I'd be like, yeah, just been in the apartment all day. So to me, it was the weirdest experience this year to watch how quickly things can change. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things I took away from lockdown is nothing is constant, right? Everything is in fluctuation and everything is flexible and things can change in a heartbeat. And as you know, reformer perfectionist here, as I know that you are as well, I know that 5 years ago, that would have terrified me, the thought of not having consistency, not having something that was constant. So yeah, that was kind of a very profound awakening and realization for me, was now being comfortable with change and feeling kind of living day to day rather than having a big, 1 year or 5 year plan, so to speak. Yeah.
I know. Well, we had something really exciting planned to take to the
We
stage, which has
did.
kind of like been put on the back burner because of these things. Yeah, I guess for
It's
me,
still going to happen. It's still going to happen.
It is. I guess for me, being a former journalist, I work with lots of journalists. I really do like love the news, but this has been a bit of a change for me. And even though I wasn't in lockdown, I still became a bit addicted to the 11 o'clock press conference.
Right.
It became like a 11 o'clock. Oh, Gladys, and I thought this is just,
yeah.
I almost felt like it became, and I cared because I know people in New South Wales, of course, but I had to make a decision. I can't just do that. And I stopped watching the numbers. I sort of found myself consuming just what I need to know. And this is a real big change for me because I always believed I need to know what's going on and stay up with current affairs. But really, it's all just what you're feeding yourself in the same way as your body. And whether it's social media, I don't know, Annie, you've been really, really good with, being able to turn off notifications and not being on social all the time. And I'm also having more phone free time and computer free days, and finding myself sitting in front of the TV mindlessly or scrolling mindlessly or sitting in front of emails and starting to say, well, no, this is sort of me, like the dumb kind of person just walking towards the light.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I just don't want to be that person. I want to be more intentional. So that's what I'm working on.
It's actually one of the things I'd love to hear your experience on this. Like our life and our job is through social media, right? So how it's free marketing, it's how you promote yourself, it's how you sell your brand, your personality, your image, all of that. How do you actually make the distinction between, okay, I am working, like I'm scrolling through TikTok or I'm on this app to work, or you know what, this is actually tiptoeing into unhealthy leisure time where I'm just scrolling aimlessly for the sake of it? Do you have boundaries that you set with yourself or ways that you actually try to strictly monitor your social media use and the time that you spend on the apps?
Yeah, I love creating, and pretty much all the time I am going on there to post and engage on my own content.
Yeah.
It's something I'm still working on. I still find myself in the endless scroll. I still get hints of the comparinitis of, oh wow, like that's good. Maybe I should be doing that. Maybe I should be doing that. And I always try to catch myself whenever I hear that should. I'm like, no, I should be doing what I'm doing right now, and I should be living my life. And so I've recently downloaded Gaia, and look, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. Have you heard of it? So it's GAIA, and it's kind of like a Netflix, but just with a whole lot of like meditations and Joe Dispenza videos and interesting stuff like that. And I feel like that's been good because when there's a time when I want to sort of go and watch something, I'll go there, and I feel like the content is, again, feeding my soul.
Yeah.
And everybody's got different things that feed their soul. So it's about understanding what it is, you know. So Patrick, he rides can I even talk? Rides a motorbike. That's what he loves to do.
Yeah.
You know, you put me on a motorbike, my anxiety would just go through the roof. I don't think it would not be like a relaxing experience for me.
Yeah.
Some people it's cooking, baking. Some people, I mean, I do puzzles. It's about just finding like what it is that you like doing.
Yeah.
And doing more of that, I guess. And I always think as well with social media, on my deathbed, like, are they going to be saying at my funeral, oh, she almost got to 1 million TikTok followers?
Oh God.
You know, like, it's when you sort of go like that, you start going, oh. And I've been focusing always on the bigger impact. Like, yeah, we use social media to promote, but the real work is when we're with people one-on-one, and we're helping change the way people are thinking about things. We're growing people's confidence. We're helping them produce sounds in their voice that they've never created before. You know, so my work really is in that transformation.
Yeah.
And the social media is kind of just like a flashlight that I have to put out going like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely. And it's, you know, the way people find you in reality, that's how, you know, everyone finds people nowadays is through social media. So it's kind of a catch-22 because you can't really avoid using it. So it's kind of your job to really monitor then your use of it. And I've definitely, like, I'll be the first to admit, I've definitely tiptoed into unhealthy use of my phone during lockdown and this year. And it's hard not to, really, when it's a device that's, you know, it's comfortable and it's constant and it's predictable and it's constant entertainment, and it's, you know, you're really feeding that what's the word, the instant gratification that we get.
Yes, actually, Annie, that reminds me, something that I did practically do. So I found myself, and like, I'm sure people can relate to this, or maybe it's just me, where I found myself in this like unhealthy death loop of social media, where I went like Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, emails. You know what I mean? Like, you sort of have this sort of cycle of the different things, and then when you get to the end of one, then you go back to the first one.
Yeah.
Bad. And so I went onto my phone and I changed where all my icons were. So and it's actually really helped. And I found how much was habit. I was going to screens going, hang on, that's where I'm used to finding TikTok. And I had to actually intentionally look where I'd put it.
Clever.
And I found that's really helped, because even just that interrupt of, oh, where's the icon, made me think, hang on, do I actually need to go in and check that?
Yeah, it's so funny you mention that. I met a really interesting guy at an event that my friends were holding the other night. And he said that he had such an issue with social media addiction that he actually created a folder in his phone called Addict. And he put all of the social media apps in that folder. And he said it was a really confronting way of, before he clicks into a social media app, to be reminded, hey, you're potentially fueling an addiction here. Like, let's do this intentionally. Do you really want to do this right now? So that's more of an extreme, but I thought the concept behind it was really interesting. What sparked the conversation, one of the best books I've ever read was Recovery by Russell Brand. And we were talking about, you know, social media addiction, or addiction to jobs, or addiction to work, and how to free yourself from them. And so it kind of sparked the conversation of what, just like this, what people have been doing during lockdown to monitor and regulate their use of social media. But slightly changing tack, I don't know about you, but being in Australia has made me want to be anywhere but Australia right now. And I'm so excited to travel and to get out again. If you could leave on a plane tomorrow and just jet and leave, where do you reckon it's the first place you'd go?
Barcelona.
Hey, Barcelona. Very nice.
Definitely. So my brother actually lives there. He got engaged and he's getting married in July. So hopefully I'll be able to get over there for that.
Beautiful.
I mean, it still seems a little bit up in the air. Surely by then it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd go to Spain, go to Portugal. My sister lives in Denmark.
I have a question about Portugal. Now, I know that you speak Portuguese, correct? Which for me is, I find that phenomenal, like incredibly beautiful, unique language. Why Portuguese? Do you know someone in Brazil, or what sparked that interest in studying Portuguese?
Yeah, so I did a Rotary youth exchange. So when I finished school, I went on exchange to Brazil. And
Right.
yeah, so I was there as an exchange student and learned the language, and it was awesome. It was great. It was a really big learning year for me.
Yeah.
And spent a lot of time by myself, a lot of time waiting, I thought was waiting, but really when the time spent waiting are the times that you're spent with yourself.
Yes.
There's another realization I had on the silent retreat. And the reason I wrote so much when I was in Brazil was because I was waiting for a train or waiting for a plane or waiting, when you're traveling, especially when you haven't got a lot of money, you'd spend a lot of time waiting.
Yeah.
But all of that was just time with my thoughts. And I think I left thinking I knew everything and came back realizing I knew nothing. So it was like a good...
Wow. And do you actively practice Portuguese to try and keep up your language skills?
Oh, look, I am inspired by the amazing Duolingo account on TikTok. Have you seen it? It's so good. Oh my gosh, you've got to get on the little like owl.
I have seen it come up on my For You page occasionally. Yeah.
So I should get back into it for sure. It's something that I do want to, because I was doing lessons here in Brisbane for a little while, and I really liked it because it was one of the only things I was doing just for me. And I think I noticed when Patrick goes on TikTok, for example, my partner, he's there purely for leisure, purely for entertainment. Whereas I feel like with us, even if you are on there for leisure, it's always a little bit of work.
Yeah.
And so I found that the Portuguese lessons were just something that I really did for myself. So good inspiration. I should start them back.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, speaking another language, I think it's one of the most, in my opinion, beautiful things as human beings that we can do is intentionally learn how to communicate with others. And if that means learning another language, like I feel, I'm studying Mandarin. It's one of the things that I just feel, I got really emotional yesterday because I had my last exam for
Congratulations, it's so exciting.
Thank you so much. But I got really emotional at the end of it because I was like, I am so proud of making a commitment to learning how to communicate with other people. And I think that's so beautiful. So get back on Duolingo and because I want you to teach me some Portuguese, because I don't know if I'd ever have the opportunity or the thought to even learn it ever. So I'm going to hold you to that, and you're going to teach me some Portuguese, and I'm so excited.
I'll teach you my favorite word, which is the word for butterfly, borboleta. It's so cute.
Borboleta?
Borboleta, yep.
Oh, that's so cute. It's so funny when you say butterfly. For some reason, I know how to say butterfly in German. It's the only German word I know, which is Schmetterling.
Schmetterling. Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
I love as well how you just said that you've made the commitment to communicate with others, because that's really what we do as speaking coaches, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
it's so true.
Helping people use their voice to communicate with others. I often say that, public speaking gets put on this pedestal of like, oh my gosh, it's this big, bad, scary thing, when all it is, it's just a channel for us to share what we know and love.
Yeah, definitely. Now, speaking of public speaking, this has been an incredible episode, and I've got some rapid fire questions for you to finish it off if you're ready. But so we both connected, some people might not know this, because we were both speech and drama teachers in Australia, and I reached out to you because I was like, oh my gosh, we've been on similar paths and whatnot. But being a speech and drama teacher normally means that as a kid, you've been through a lot of Eisteddfods and you've done a lot of competitions and a lot of performances. Do you still remember any of the poems or any of the drama pieces that you did when you were a kid in those Eisteddfods?
Like pretty much all of them.
Yeah, right.
If someone just gives me the first line, I'm like, the other day, oh my gosh, somebody was like, what are we having for dinner? And they're like, spaghetti. And I just broke into Shel Silverstein, spaghetti all over the place, up to my elbows, up to my face, over the carpet and under the stairs, into the hammock and wound round the stairs.
Oh my gosh.
It's all about, I forget the second stanza. What is it? The party is ruined. I'm terribly worried. The guests have all left, unless they're all buried. I told them, bring presents. I said, throw confetti. I guess they heard wrong, because they all threw spaghetti.
Oh my gosh. Silverstein's a classic. That's incredible. And I find the memory so amazing in that regard, that you can just remember those things. That's crazy.
I know. If only you could remember some other things.
I know, it's so true. And okay, so next question. What would you say is your greatest fear that you have?
I think not meeting my potential. I
Oh,
feel like our greatest fear is not putting everything on the table.
I feel like it's my duty to say this, not because I'm hosting this episode, but because I deeply love and care about you. You have already exceeded every possible potential that there could ever be. And you are helping hundreds of thousands of people all across the world every single day. And if that doesn't meet any kind of potential, then I don't know where your standards are. You got to level them out a bit, because you are just phenomenal in everything that you do. And
oh, Annie, you're so sweet. Yeah. And I feel like what's good about it is it's not so much kind of constantly having to go higher, because that's the curse of the perfectionist, right? We always feel like we failed because we never reach it. It's more that I just have this well of stuff inside me.
Yeah.
Like somebody asked me in a social situation about speaking, like I like sit down, I'm like, I just have to tell them everything I know to try to help them. Like it's just inside me. They probably find it very annoying, but so I guess I just feel like that's really flowing, and sometimes I get a bit impatient and I'm like, I've got so much to give and so much to do, and I just want to keep doing that.
Yeah. Beautiful. And would you say there is I know that you read a lot. Would you say that there's a book that you would recommend that everyone reads that's been really profound or life-changing for you?
I know you gave me this question ahead of time. There is a book by Sahara Rose, who's sort of my spiritual guide, I guess, in lots of ways. Love her podcast. And she's got a book called Discover Your Dharma. And what I love about it is it's just all about discovering your purpose in life. The concept of discovering why you're here is the key to everything. Like you'd even know with writing a speech, the first question we always ask is, well, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why is it important? And so often the biggest barrier to communication is because people have no connection to their content. I find it in the corporate clients. It's like, you're not a bad speaker. You're in a job you don't like with people who don't respect you, talking about content you don't care about.
Oh my God.
like that's the issue. It's not your voice.
True. It's so true. It's so true. I love that. Wow, I'm gonna have to add that to the list and put it on the shelf to read. That's a really beautiful recommendation. So thank you for that.
I will post it to you for Christmas. Let me make
Stop it, you. Okay, so karaoke night. You're out with the gals. What's your go-to song?
I think I did write this down. Hang on. Oh, yes, that's right. Because I have a few of them.
I'm ready.
Because I'm a speech and drama teacher and my articulation is pretty good. I often do Sophie Ellis-Bextor, Murder on the Dance Floor, because she's so articulate. It's murder on the dance floor. You better not kill the girl.
DJ.
Murder on the dance floor. So it's kind of like,
oh, that's incredible. That's so good.
And it's one of the ones that you can kind of speak, not sing as much. Yeah. And then if I've had a few drinks, then it's probably the Divinals, When I Think About You, I Touch Myself.
Incredible. Both very, very good options. Now, speaking of articulation, as a voice coach, we've done more tongue twisters than we could probably even count. Do you have a favorite tongue twister, or do you have one? I'm throwing you kind of out of the blue here, but just reminded me of it. Do you have a tongue twister that you really like, or that's really impressive to do, or the most difficult one that you've done?
Oh, look, I do have a lot of tongue twisters to hand. I find I like Fuzzy Wuzzy. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't fuzzy, was he?
So that's a good one.
That's cute
tricky.
One.
Yeah, that's tricky.
Yeah, the most difficult one that I give to my students is 11 benevolent elephants. 11 benevolent elephants. It's always easy to change the L with the N, and you get malevolent rather than benevolent.
Benevolent, yeah.
Yeah. And I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch.
That's a good one. Yeah. There's so many.
There's so many. What's yours?
My favorite would be Thistle Sifter, because you have to quickly change the TH with the S sound. So
that's a hard one.
She is a thistle sifter. She has a sieve of sifted thistles and a sieve of unsifted thistles, and it goes on. There's like 7 sentences or so. But for me, because I grew up with a lisp, I had to do so many exercises with TH sounds and S sounds to learn to pronounce them differently. And that's the one tongue twister that has been seared into my brain. I will never forget it. It's there.
I like it. Yeah, my S is a little bit fat as well. Like it's a little bit lispy, and I had to keep trying. 6 silly snakes sang 6 silly songs. Some sang softly, some sang strong. 6 silly snakes sang so softly, so some say. Some slid south, so some snakes stayed. And I'm still like, it's still a little bit not as clear as I'd like it to
That
be.
is so impressive, though. It's like a party trick. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but I think this is a good if people are watching this going like, whoa, this is crazy. I mean, this shows that voice and speaking is something that you practice.
Yes.
And just like any skill, if you practice it, you can learn it and master it.
Definitely.
Like we've literally been doing tongue twisters since we've been kids.
Yeah. Weekly for how long? What, 14 years?
Yeah, and I do a voice warm up every single day. So yeah, it's very accessible. It's like, so people who and you'd see this with your students, if you've never done a voice exercise in your life, it's like you've never gone to the gym in your life. So when you go for one time, you're going to see the results straight away.
Yeah, correct. Exactly right. I love that analogy. That's so good. All right, and what would you say is your biggest pet peeve?
Ghosting.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, ghosting. So I've, of course, had it in dating as well. And I never ghosted. I mean, I was a serial first dater for a while, but I always used to have I had like 3 templated texts that I used to send back. The whole, it's not you, it's me.
Of course.
Not good timing.
It's not the right time.
But I would never leave them hanging. I'd always just do the cut and paste and I'd send them an answer.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is, I see it in business as well. There's some clients who disappear and I don't know what happens to them. And I text them and I email them and I want to have a conversation. And I don't think I'm scary. I try to be really approachable.
Yeah.
Somebody I even saw at a cafe the other day and they just pretended they didn't see me. And so I'm just really...
Wow, really? I think for a lot of people, there's a lot of guilt and a lot of shame associated with not reaching out or not reconnecting. And so then it's just easier to avoid it than to make that connection. From experience, it's never something that you've done wrong. It's just the person individually. There's a lot of shame and a lot of guilt associated with reaching out. Look, the list came out, there you go, associated with reaching out again. So yeah, you haven't done anything wrong. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, ghost. I think it's really common.
Yeah. So, and look, I probably have ghosted somebody in my life as well. If you're watching this and you're like, Sally, that's so hypocritical, you ghosted me, then like, please get in touch and let me know.
Reach out. We'll have a chat. All right, the very last question I have for you is the question that I'm the most excited about, because I feel like it's a really important question to ask. And that is, you've had a really massive year. You've done so many things, and I am so proud of you for all the things that you have done. But I think it's really important to reflect on things that you yourself are proud of for this year. So if you could try and list them for me, what are 3 things this year that you're really, really proud of that you've done?
Yes, I'm glad you gave me this one ahead of time because I had to really think about it. The thing I'm most proud of is doing my spiritual life coaching course, committing to that and doing it, because it's really improved my life and opened up the second thing, which is launching my new course, Speak From Your Soul, which has just been such a joy. I'm still creating it at the moment. It's happening. I've actually, better watch the time. Oh no, it's not till 11 o'clock. I've got a few hours. But yeah, love doing that. And then I guess the third one would have to be paying off my mortgage.
Oh, well done. That's huge. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's probably the only year I'll be able to say it for the next however long. So
particularly
it's a good feeling.
In the Australian market, that's a big deal. So well done. Well, Sal, I'm incredibly proud of you for all the things that you achieve and continue to achieve. I think you inspire so many to just be a really good human being. And despite all the skills that you have as a voice coach and all the value that you offer to people's lives through, your social media and your content and whatnot, I think the biggest takeaway from learning from you and from getting to know you really well is you are just genuinely a beautiful human. And it's a real privilege today to be the one to have interviewed you in this episode, and to hear more about your incredible life and everything that you've learned. And it genuinely is, it's such an honor to know you personally, and I'm just so proud of you. So congratulations for your 100th episode. It is so exciting. And here's to, again with the water, the next 100 to come.
Oh, Annie, thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers.